We are autistic. When we were kids, we couldn't speak. In this world that was not made for us, art is how we thrive.
Hi, welcome back to our next episode of Actually Autistic Artists. I'm Carrie.
Hi, I am ManMan. I use they them pronouns.
And today we're going to talk about masking, and I actually wanted to start by touching on my experience essentially editing the subtitles for these videos that we've been recording. And I could feel myself doing it right. And how I just have been making observations about how ManMan speaks and how I speak, and how we each collect our thoughts, or sometimes how thoughts just seem to all spill out. And it's been interesting to sort of notice the differences between us. I find that I do a lot of pausing, to think through, to make sure that what I say is what I really mean to say. And I know that my eyes are all over the place, but that's just natural for me. I always have a concern that what I'm saying or what I'm going to say will be misunderstood. So I tend to be very careful with my words, and I think that's always been true for me, even when I didn't talk very much to other people outside of my family, that there's always this cycle of anxiety in my head, where I'm wondering what the right thing is to say, and if what I have to say has meaning for the person who's receiving it, and not really being able to fully, I guess, accept that they have received my meaning. So I always have a lot of, I guess, a lack of confidence in expressing myself through words. In terms of applying the term masking to situational mutism, or SM, or selective mutism, I think that the easiest way for me to describe it myself is to talk about scripting. And that is actually, first let me step back and talk about what it means to mask. Essentially, when someone has the experience of neurodivergence in a way that makes them seem or feel different than a typical person, they could, and likely do, adjust their behavior, their way of interacting with people, in an effort to try to be like everyone else. And this is not often a conscious decision, especially as you're a child. You're always trying to fit in and find your space and your place in your community and the world. And kids can be, rejected for being different in the way that some of us are. So as a kid, for me, I would often sort of have these conversations in my head where I would sort of wonder what it would be like to say something to someone, like watching other kids talking, like, hey, how was your weekend? And whatever. And then in my head, I'd sort of like file that phrase. Like, if I had a friend I could talk to, I would probably try to say that phrase. And I actually would practice this in the mirror. Like, I I really liked as a kid having these sort of secret private moments where I was free to talk and I was all of the characters. So I would look at myself in the mirror and it'd be like, I would always apply it to like whatever I was doing. Like if I was brushing my teeth, I would make up this story of like, well, welcome to the dentist today. How long has it been since your last visit? And I say, oh, it's been about a year and I've been having some trouble, and I like would make up the story talking to myself as a way of kind of practicing speaking because I couldn't do it in front of other people. And eventually all of that practice, I started to, when I switched schools and moved to high school with a completely different group of kids, then I was able to take all of that practice, 14 years of practicing and begin to apply it outside my home. But it doesn't feel genuine, right? It doesn't, even if you were an actor on stage and you have become fully intimate with your script and feel it in your heart and your soul, it's not really you.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I come from. Like when I think about masking as someone with SM, and a little bit, a part of that for me is also my facial expressions. I tend to overdo it with facial expressions, and I mean, as I'm talking, I know you and I've talked about your facial expressions. It's often in reaction to what somebody else has said. But as I'm speaking, I know like my eyebrows kind of go crazy sometimes. And that changes depending on who I'm speaking to. I don't think about this at all. But if I'm talking to someone who's very calm, then I become very calm. And if I'm talking to somebody who speaks quickly and they have a lot of energy, that is not something that's easy for me to do, but I find myself trying to match them and feeling like it's something that I have to do in order to converse with this person. And that's very, very exhausting. Yeah. I can't handle being around high energy conversationalists very, very, very long or frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. We started with Carrie, you sharing about your experience transcribing our conversation. There are so many things that you mentioned. I have very, very similar experience. So I'm like struggling to start to figure out where to start with to respond to this. And one of the things that Carrie noticed about in my style of speaking is there's so much going on. I sometimes describe that as like a 5-part harmony, or you can think about 5 completely different TV shows happening in my head at the same time. But speaking, you could only speak one of them. So sometimes some of the shows in my head actually get fast forward ahead with what actually is happening right here. So you might notice in many of these episodes, I might have to start my sentence like 5 or 6 times in order to reset, find my footing, and then move forward. Or halfway through a sentence, a different thought or show start to take over. I would completely jump from one train to the other. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, where am I? Wait, am I talking about the same thing still? And wait a second, I don't think I've said what I'm saying. Oh, this person is confused. Oh, okay, that's because I completely jumped ship. And resonating with what you said about learned like the script, I definitely do that. I am saving in my data bank, like, oh, this is how you express with this emotions or context. But then sometimes it doesn't always work, because I would just repeat something I've heard and said it, and then moments later realize, oh, that's not what that meant. Oh, and so sometimes if I in high energy conversation, certain friend will immediately like sort of correct, interrupt, or clarified. Um, then I realized, oh no, I used a word that I didn't mean to, and sometimes it's caused really intense anxiety when that happened. But the conversation has already started, so I have to commit to finish it. So this is more adulthood, like, because conversation, it's kind of like a must for everyday interaction. Um, dial back to childhood, I like very similar. I practice. I actually own a bunch of Barbie dolls that I play with every day to rehearse conversation or to just speak. I play all the roles, like each individual Barbies is like, and then all these interactions. And I remember transitioning to middle school, I just completely like, because I have a new environment, I could actually practice in person. And majority of the people in the school, I they didn't know me, which in elementary school or in Hong Kong we call it primary school, that they see me as a really quiet person. But whereas in this new school, I could practice now. So suddenly I stopped touching my Barbies, my dolls, and my parents were like, what happened? I didn't even have any attachment to them. Like they were like, you sure you don't want to keep this? I'm like, yeah, I don't need them anymore. Yeah, anyway. So today we went a little long with our first intro, I guess, because this is a really deep topic. And masking, there's so many different perspectives. And today we're just focusing on speaking, the speaking part. So maybe we can take a breath and continue on to dive deeper into this. And by the way, check you can check the link below or to the side for the information to get to the deeper dive videos. Words. Okay. See you over there.